Hello everyone, my name is Piyush Sachdeva. Welcome to another video in the series of Namaste Google Cloud, where I will be publishing GCP videos every week. In this video, I will be discussing about cloud storage in detail, along with other important concepts such as storage classes, lifecycle rules, object versioning, best practices, etc. Please watch the complete video as I will be doing some knowledge checks at the end with some sample exam questions if you are planning for Associate Cloud Engineer certification. If you are new to my channel, please hit the subscribe button below and the bell icon to get notified about all my upcoming videos. Without further ado, let's get into it. So let's quickly have a look what exactly is a cloud storage. It is a service for storing your objects in Google Cloud. And what are the objects? Well, an object is an immutable piece of data consisting of a file of any format, typically the unstructured data or the binary large objects. Objects such as audios, videos, images, archives, etc. These type of unstructured data are typically stored into buckets, and then the data can be accessed by different users or GCP service using different authentication methods such as IAM roles or pre-signed URLs, or these objects can also be public. So we'll have a look at all those in detail. So cloud storage is suitable for many use cases such as storing and accessing unstructured data such as audio video files, binary large objects, images, and it can also be used to serve static website, the video streaming data. It can also be used to store your backups and archives for disaster recovery or for regulatory and compliance purpose. Logs and other reporting data can also be stored in the cloud storage. So let's have a look at another important concept of storage classes. So whenever you create a bucket, you specify the type of storage class that bucket belongs to, and all the objects inside that bucket will inherit that storage class unless it is specified otherwise. So it defines the object's availability and pricing model. It also defines how fast the requested data can be retrieved from the bucket. So there are four type of storage classes that GCP support: standard storage class, nearline, cold line, and archival. Let's see the differences between all those four. So first is data access. So the standard storage class is used to store the frequently accessed data. Nearline storage is used to store the data that is infrequently accessed, typically once a month. Cold line storage stores the data that is also infrequently accessed, but even less frequent than nearline storage, such as once a quarter. And as the name suggests, archival storage class stores the data which is accessed rarely after it's been created, typically once a year. So there is a minimum storage duration that you should be aware about before storing your data in either of these storage classes. Standard has a very small duration because it is frequently accessed data, and it should be typically stored for a brief duration. You store data for a minimum of 30 days in nearline storage, minimum of 90 days for cold line storage, and for archival storage, you store for at least 365 days. Let's see the cost associated with each of these. So because standard is used to store the frequently accessed data, so the cost when it comes to retrieving or storing the objects, the standard has the highest cost. Nearline has the lower cost than standard but higher than cold line. Cold line has lower cost than nearline but higher than archival, and archival has the lowest cost. So all four of the storage classes support dual or multi-region. When you create a bucket and specify a storage class, you could select whether you want it to be regional, dual regional, or multi-regional. Each of those would have different costs associated with it. Obviously, multi-region would be the highest, And then dual region will have a lower cost than multi-region, and the regional cost will be the lowest among all those. So you choose that strategy as per your use case and as per the criticality of your data. Then let's have a look at the use cases that they are ideally suitable for. Standards should be used for use cases such as serving web content or streaming videos that requires the application or the user to frequently access the data. Then nearline for reports such as auditing profit and loss. So those reports that is usually accessed once a month. Code line storage is typically used to store backups, snapshots, logs that is accessed like once a quarter. And in archival, we store the data for auditing, legal and compliance purpose, or if it needs to be used as part of the disaster recovery process. So this type of data is typically used once a year. All right, so I have logged into my Google Cloud Console. I'll just go to the navigation menu and search for cloud storage, which is over here. I'll click on the service and then I'll hit on create bucket. So first we have to provide this a unique name. Please pick a globally unique name and it will be a permanent name. That means you cannot change the name once you have created it. So I'll give this a unique name. Let's call it tutorials with Piyush 101. Right, I'll hit continue. Then it will ask me the location type, whether it should be multi-regional, dual regional or regional. So each of these have a different cost structure. So if you see the multi-region is 0.026 per GB per month because it will be hosting your bucket in multiple regions in US. If you choose the regional one and select a region, let's say I'll select this one which is nearest to me. So it will cost you 0.023 per GB per month. So there is a difference between multi-regional, dual region and regional costs. Right? So I'll just select the regional so that I could use the minimum possible cost. I'll hit continue then. Then it will ask me to choose between different storage classes. If it is a frequently accessed data that is used for a short-term storage, then I'll use the storage as standard, as nearline or code line. Archive storage we use for storing the long-term archive. Typically that is accessed once a year. Okay, so I'll just keep it default for now, which is standard. Then there is an option which says enforce public access prevention on this bucket. So by default, this is publicly accessible. So if I check mark this box, that means this bucket is now private and would not be available publicly. Then you specify the access control, whether you just want it to be accessed by the bucket level permissions or you want to specify access to the individual objects using the object level permissions. So I'll just use the default, but make sure you understand the difference between those two. The first one would be at the bucket level, the second one would be at the object level. The next is how to protect the object data. By default, the protection is none. You select the object versioning when you want your multiple versions of data to be stored. Let's say you upload a file and then you updated it. So if the object versioning is not enabled, the previous version would be replaced by the newer version. But if we select the object versioning, both the versions will be kept and you can use the previous version whenever you want to roll back the changes. So it will ask you few different things like maximum number of versions per object. So let's say we want to keep it at least 2 versions of the object, expired non-concurrent version after 7 days. So it will keep 2 versions for at least 7 days and then it will delete the previous version. Then there is one option which says retention policy. So we can prevent the buckets object to be deleted or modified before a specified number of days. So you can enable this option as well. And you can choose the data encryption, whether you want to use the Google managed encryption key, or if you have your own key, you can use that as well. So after verifying all the details, after entering all the details, and after verifying the price, I'll just hit on create the bucket. So the bucket is created. This is the bucket name. If you want to check, go back and you see one bucket has been created just now, which is a regional bucket created in this particular region. So I'll just go inside the bucket. Then there are different options. First, let's go ahead and upload some files to this bucket. I'll upload this image. Okay, so the image is uploaded over here. And these are the details of that particular image or the object. You can download it by clicking over here. You can edit the metadata, which is the content type, right? Or the custom metadata you can add. Then you can also delete the object from here. This is the preview of that object if the preview is supported, right? The object is not public because we have created the bucket as private. That is why this object inherited the policy. And if we go back, now we see different options as well. First is configuration. So configuration is your buckets configuration that we have created, right? So all the options that we have selected while creating the bucket, you can change few of the options. Few of them are auto generated and few of them you cannot change, such as the URL of the bucket you cannot change because it was auto generated with the predefined format. And you cannot change the region of the bucket or the name of the bucket once it is created. Then if we go to the permissions, it says it is not public, it is a private bucket, and we haven't created any ACL for that particular object. Then we have protection. We have enabled the bucket versioning, and that is why it is showing as enabled. And if we go to the life cycle, this is another important concept. So life cycle management consists of a set of rules that you apply to a bucket object when certain conditions are met. For example, you want to delete the object after 30 days to save the cost, and you know that you won't be needing these objects after 30 days. So you could just set the life cycle rule instead of manually going and deleting each and every object after the 30-day period has been passed. So let's see how we can add a rule. It already has two rules. If we see, let me collapse this, because we have enabled the object versioning. That is why it created the rule which says it should have two new versions, and it would delete the previous version when 7 days has been passed after the version become non-current, right? So these two rules were created as part of that. Create a new rule, you use this option, add a rule. So there are different actions that you can select. Actions are of three type. You can change the storage class from standard to nearline, from standard to cold line, or from standard to archive. Or you can delete the object, or you can delete the multi-part object. So multi-part object is something that was uploaded in multiple parts but hasn't finished yet. So it will not delete the finished multi-part but only the unfinished multi-parts. Right? And important thing to remember over here is you can only change the storage class going in the upward direction. That means from standard to nearline, or from nearline to code line, or from code line to archive, right? But you cannot go in the backward direction. Like you cannot change the storage class from archive to standard or from archive to code line like that. Okay. So this is how it should be. So once you select an action, let's say I want to change the near line, then you specify object condition, which means when the rule will be triggered. Let's say you want to change the storage class after 30 days, right? So I'll click over here to the age condition. I'll specify the number of days as 30. So now the action that we specified was to change the storage class from standard to nearline. And the condition that we have set is age is greater than 30 days, right? So when I click continue and create, now it says the action is set to nearline and the object condition is 30 plus days since the object was updated, right? So this is how you can create a rule and it will be automatically applied to all the objects in this particular bucket. Now let's see how you can access the bucket using the command line. So I'll just open the Cloud Shell from here. Let's say I would want to download an object. So first I'll clear it. And now I need the object's GS URL. So I'll just go to the object and I'll copy the URL that starts with GS, right? This is the URL generated for gsutil. So I'll just copy the URL and I'll type the command gsutil copy and the object location which we have copied and the directory in which we would want to download the file. So I'll choose the current directory. Once I hit enter, it will prompt you to authorize or reject the call. So I'll just authorize it. And once I do that, it will just download the file. It says copying this particular file to this location, which is my current directory. So if I do ls over here, I will see the file has been downloaded, this one. The same way we can upload the file from here to the bucket. Let's see how we can do that. So I'll again use the same command gsutil test.txt and I'll enter the gsutil URL. I just need the bucket URL until here. Copy it. I missed the CP after gsutil, so gsutil CP. And then source file name and location and then destination location. I'll hit enter and it uploaded the file. It says operation completed. So if I go back to my bucket, I should see the test.txt file. To delete the objects in the bucket, you select the object, hit delete, and then delete it. So it has deleted the objects now. Because there was only one version of the file, that's why it deleted the files completely, even though the versioning was enabled. If we had the multiple versions, then it would have kept the non-current version. Okay, so if I go back to my bucket now, I don't have anything. So to delete the bucket, I'll just select the bucket and hit delete. It will prompt me to enter delete just to make sure that it is not an accidental delete of the bucket, because once the bucket is deleted, it cannot be recovered, right? So exercise caution over here and hit delete. Let's see few of the cloud storage best practices as recommended by Google Cloud. So you should always apply the principle of least privilege when it comes to authentication and authorization. That means restricting your users or application to not do more than they are supposed to. You should not make the objects as public unless it is required. So if the objects are used as part of video streaming or a content service, if the objects are used as part of a video streaming or a content serving service, then it can have the public read-only access. You should use the object lifecycle rules to manage the cost. Bucket versioning should be enabled for critical data so that it can be recovered in case of a disaster or any accidental deletion. You should use signed URL to share the bucket objects with external users or the unauthenticated users. You can also set the expiry of the URL to even strengthen the access control. and you use parallel composite uploads to upload larger files using gsutil. Now the last part of this video, knowledge checks for Associate Cloud Engineer certification. Our first question is, let's say you are in storage administration of an organization and you are advised to upload few videos to a storage bucket that will be used as part of online streaming service. These videos are expected to be accessed very frequently. Which storage class would you choose, keeping in mind the lowest possible cost? The next is, which command line utility is recommended to access object in the storage bucket? And what is the recommended way to share the bucket objects with external users? Let's say you have a set of objects that are frequently used for the first 30 days after the initial upload, then they are rarely used. However, it should be kept for regulatory purpose. What should you do to save the cost? Alright, that's it for this video, guys. I hope you would have enjoyed the video and learned something out of it. If you did, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends, colleagues, and family members. If you know the answers of these questions, let me know in the comment section below. And if you have any difficulty understanding in any of the concept, then also feel free to reach out to me and I will be more than happy to help you out. I will see you soon with the next video. Till then, take care, keep learning, and have a good day.